On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, the Raptors fall in a thriller in OT to the Denver Nuggets. And yes, they lost, but the way they lost is something you can live with.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, October the 29th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. Been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the bad website that sucks at Woodley Sean. We're on Instagram at Locked On Raptors, and you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Great place to come hang out with sickos just like you who love the podcast. And if you're even more of a sicko and want more me, subscribe to the Locked On Raptors daily newsletter. It's free. It's awesome. You get original writing from me with reporting from games and practices and stuff on top of the podcast every day. You get Katie Heindel original pieces 4 times a week. Michael Shearer from Basketball Poetry once a week with an X's and O's breakdown, fantasy tips, the whole 9 yards. It's a great thing. Come and support us. The link is in the description as well, and it's free to subscribe and get it right to your inbox, fresh every single day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we'll get started here on your Tuesday edition of the show, breaking down a Toronto Raptors 127-125 dramatic overtime loss to the very desperate Denver Nuggets, who were paced by an incredible performance by Nikola Jokic. It was pretty awesome to see him do what he did to the Raptors in person. Not going to lie, as a Jokic freak myself, I had a blast of a time watching this game from both sides. And I think there's a lot to like from what we saw from the Raptors in this game. There are no moral victories, as we'll hear Darko Rajakovic say later on in the show when we get into some of the young team stuff that caused the Raptors to lose. We got the good, the bad, and the coming up later on too. But I do just want to start off, kind of on brand, on a bit of a positive note coming out of a loss. If they're going to play games like that all season long, that's awesome, regardless of the results. The Toronto Raptors did not play games like last night's game last season. In the early part of the year last year, all of the wins were kind of twinged with it's just like staving off the inevitable for one more day kind of vibe. The losses felt super heavy. It felt like it was just one more step towards the full teardown that was impending. And later in the season, when they didn't really have any interesting young guys of note playing games outside of, I guess, Grady Dick, it really was just like a bummer of a slog. There were not these fun, thrilling games where you're seeing a young team test its mettle against a really good team in a serious competitive basketball game. The blowouts weren't fun because the garbage time was just like guys who you're never going to see again. This was such a breath of fresh air, such a fun game to watch, fun game to be at. The crowd inside Scotiabank Arena was loud. We haven't heard that in quite some time. It's been a bit of a morose state of affairs in the stands for these Raptors games over the last couple seasons, post-COVID. Not a whole lot of winning going on. The place was absolutely rocking last night. RJ Barrett coming out of the timeout in the fourth quarter. Raptors up 4, trying to make a big punch back after the Nuggets cut the deficit. And Barrett comes out, throws down an absolute lefty hammer, and the place absolutely goes bananas. It was a super fun game and a lot of good stuff to pull from this one for the Toronto Raptors. And, we can start in a whole bunch of different places. Scottie Barnes, we'll talk a little later about the injury he took. We'll see, nothing yet as far as his condition or his availability for Wednesday against the Hornets. But obviously he left this game with a couple minutes left after getting hit in the eye with an elbow from Nikola Jokic. And it sucked. It was a bummer. He looked like he was in a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort. And it sapped what was, I think, a game that was, probably headed towards a Raptors win before Scottie went out. We'll never know that, maybe they still blow it and the Nuggets do the Nuggets thing and Jokic goes crazy and they still win. But Scottie Barnes was pretty awesome in this game. Not maybe as super duper aggressive as you always want to see him on offense. He missed some bunnies late in the game that he was hitting earlier in the game. That happens. I think the process was good on all of them. It's just, those little flip shots, sometimes they rim out, and they happened at unfortunate times in this one. But for the most part, thought Scottie was really impressive in this one. 21, 12, and 9, 5 steals, that ridiculous chase down block. Yeah, there were some issues with turnovers late for him, but I think he kind of made it back on the other end quite a bit. Had that, again, the crazy chase down block on Christian Braun after a bad turnover. And in general, I just thought this was a really nice game of Scottie Barnes kind of shepherding the offense along. He, didn't feel like he had to go and drop 30 in this game. There were other guys contributing, other guys hitting their shots. It was, I think, a pretty good sort of deft handling of the lead creator responsibilities for Scottie Barnes continuously in this sort of difficult team context where, yes, RJ Barrett was back, but still no Emmanuel Quickly, still just like not a lot of shooting juice on this team. Kelly Olynyk will help with that too when he returns. Still pretty cramped spacing. And I thought Scottie Barnes did a pretty damn good job working around it while also just kind of bringing it on both ends. He got into it a little bit with Russell Westbrook. You like to see that sort of fire. Glad he didn't get tossed or anything like that. That would have sucked. But yeah, overall, really nice game from Scottie Barnes, who after a really rough opener, I think has settled in pretty nicely and is kind of making those steps you want to see as a lead shot creator. And again, things will get easier once Emmanuel Quickly returns as well. I thought Jakob Poeltl was fantastic in this game. We'll have more on him later on, but he was really good. He, cleaned up the glass. He did as good a job as you can hopefully do against Nikola Jokic. And Jokic still scored 40 because he's ridiculous, but he was awesome. I thought Grady Dick, very quietly throughout the first part of this game, wasn't doing a whole lot, wasn't affecting the action. Then he goes off for a couple threes, and then he gets fouled on a three as well and knocks down all 3 free throws in the fourth quarter. And that's beautiful. Darko Rajakovic talked after the game about, Grady is going to be this kind of guy sometimes where the scouting report knows, okay, he's the most dynamic shooter on the team or one of the most dynamic shooters on the team. There are going to be times where he's kind of shut out of the action for the first half of games as teams really lock in. Kind of what happened for him in this one. But as the game goes along and things get sort of greased and a guy like Scottie Barnes takes over, all of a sudden you've got Grady Dick flying off of intricate actions with Jakob Poeltl and Scottie Barnes into wide open space for 3, and he's banging them. And that's fantastic to see that he was able to kind of get things back on track after a rough start. He went 0 of 5 to start this game from deep, hit his last 2, had that one that kind of rattled in, the nice shooter's bounce. Very cool stuff from Grady Dick. Off the bench, again, the rookies doing stuff. Jonathan Mobo, I thought, had some really nice defensive moments in this game. Jamal Shed continues to be this really excellent guiding force for the second unit. I want to see so much more Jamal Shed. It's unreal. You even had Davion Mitchell, I think, kind of hinting at, what his potential off-ball utility could be. If he's going to be eagerly taking 6 threes a game, like he did last night, he hit 3 of them, and he's able to kind of bring that pest on-ball defense as well, there's a role for him that doesn't require him to be the on-ball guy that he's kind of struggled with here early in the season. Once Emmanuel Quickly comes back, I thought this was easily Davion Mitchell's best game of the season. Some miscues late, and he even copped to them after the game. He said he thought he had some turnovers and stuff that kind of cost them. I think those more came in the first half, frankly, for him. I think he maybe took responsibility for stuff that wasn't his fault. But, hey, I think, Davion Mitchell certainly acquitted himself really nicely in this game. And then you get RJ Barrett back, right? Like, just a lot of good stuff. Barrett wasn't his most efficient in this one, just 9 of 21. But he comes out, shot out of a cannon, scores 9 points on 5 shots in the first 3 minutes of the game, is totally ready. Doesn't seem like he skipped a beat. Had some issues finishing, had some trouble with length and stuff like that at times during this game, but I thought finished on a really strong note. And, hopefully his shoulder's feeling all right this morning. He was asked sort of the toll of driving as much as he did. Is he going to feel all right? Does he feel all right? He said, I'll tell you in the morning. Hopefully he's feeling all right today. But having RJ Barrett back, you kind of getting little steps closer to seeing what this team can be once all their guys are back. And I just think they're proving, even though they're 1-3 and they have a not very good net rating because that Cavs game is dragging them down and probably will for 20 games just because that's how small sample sizes work. But I just think you're seeing the pieces come together here for a team that can be a lot more serious than they were given credit for. Even if they're going to lose more than they win, they are a team that can play games like this against a good team in the Nuggets. And look, the Nuggets are still a good team. As long as Nikola Jokic is on that team, they are good at the very least. And, I thought the Raptors against the Denver team that was very clearly desperate, very clearly trying to pull out all the stops to win their first game of the season and quiet the concerns that have been floating around about them. I mean, Jokic plays 43 minutes in this game. He had to play the entire third quarter and the Nuggets just won that quarter by 3 points, despite not being able to match Poeltl's minutes with Jokic in that third, because you just weren't going to play Poeltl all 12 minutes. But I just, again, a lot of stuff in this game to grow on, to build on. And this is the kind of stuff that you need to do as a young team, right? You got to go through these lumps. You got to go and lose these types of games to good teams. For it to take that Nikola Jokic performance for the Nuggets to win this game, all you can really do is tip your cap. He was incredible. And sometimes you're going to lose to teams of that quality, kind of going into God mode as they did down the stretch, where Jokic just couldn't miss a damn thing. The two-man game with him and Murray, historically, bloody impossible to stop, and they still kind of hung tight. I thought the punch back in overtime was really impressive as well. The Nuggets go up 8, and the Raptors still don't let go of the rope. They bring it back and give themselves a chance to win. And then, by the way, just a quick aside, I freaking love the way the Raptors approach that final possession. I know there will be, like sort of armchair quarterbacks or coaches or whatever today being like, why didn't they call a timeout to drop a play? Because that's loser stuff. It's for cowards. They had an open court, RJ Barrett barreling up the left side, and they had a chance to, save us from a second overtime with a made three. Barrett puts it up. Is he a pull-up shooter by trade? Not necessarily, but I think in that situation, a pretty decent look against a defense that was not set. You can do all this stuff, right? You can, call a timeout, drop all you want. It's just way harder to go up against a set defense than it is one that's recovering after a missed possession. And I think the Raptors made the right call there. Let the dudes play. Stop with late game stoppages. This was a win for fun late game process from a tactics perspective. And it didn't go in. But if that did go in, we're talking about like an all-time Raptors regular season moment, and maybe the best Raptors moment since OG hit that shot in Game 3 against the Celtics in the bubble. That's how thrilling it would have been. The roof would have fallen in had RJ hit that shot. I think you make that decision 10 times out of 10. I'm glad that Darko didn't stop it down. Not to mention, you go into a half-court possession without your best half-court creator in Scottie Barnes. I think on the fly, pretty good call by Darko to just say, hey, go see if you can end this thing, RJ. Maybe RJ could have driven it, but I think, he kind of had reasoning for why he didn't do that. Thought maybe there was a guy behind him who was going to come and block the shot. Had he made it all the way to the rim, Nikola Jokic was tracking and trailing him pretty closely. So maybe he's right there. But yeah, bombs away, man. Let her rip. I was super thrilled by that. That was the dramatic, crazy finish that ridiculous game deserved. And man, oh man, it was great to feel something watching a Toronto Raptors basketball game. Felt it against the Sixers on Friday. This one did not have the handcuff of 99 free throws, killing the vibe every 2 seconds. Awesome game, super fun. And the Raptors are a fun basketball team. Are they good? Not yet, but this is how they get to there. We'll get into that coming up in just a second. Get into some of the young team stuff that caused the Raptors to lose. We'll hear from Darko Rajakovic on this not being a moral victory, something he doesn't really believe in, but there was lots of stuff to build on. Anyway, we'll get to that coming up in just 1 sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time, the single best place to buy tickets for the sporting events that you want to go to. And I used Game Time very recently. On Friday night, I bought tickets for our pal Stu, who went to the game last night on behalf of Locked On Raptors over-unders champion Blair Weston. Blair wasn't able to make the game, but he gave the tickets to his pal Stu. Stu was at the game, had a blast of a time, and it's all because I found really nice tickets for Game Time on Game Time for that Raptors game. And look, the Raptors aren't great right now. Maybe you want to get in while the getting's hot, where the tickets are maybe a little cheaper than you might usually be able to score them for when the team's not winning. Come buy some tickets, go see the Raptors, and watch them play some fun ball with some young dudes doing crazy stuff. It's a good time. Of course, Game Time gives you all of the perks of their wonderful app. You get all-in pricing. Just toggle that feature on, and you know exactly what you're going to pay. No hidden fees at the back end. Lowest price guarantees. Game Time ticket coverage, the whole 9 yards. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Down the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Well, it's game time, of course. Back at it here, talking about the Raptors, 127-125 overtime loss to the Denver Nuggets. Again, super fun, man. Had a great time watching this one. And, I had a great time in spite of all of the young team bonehead stuff that caused them to lose this game down the stretch. I think, this was a game where I think for about 44 minutes, they were super engaged, super locked in, really good on the glass. They continue to be an awesome rebounding team, killing the offensive glass, cleaning up the defensive boards for the most part until the last few minutes where some really, really untimely boards went against them. A couple of them weird bounces. That's going to happen. A couple of them maybe bad missed box outs and things like that. But overall, this was a really, really stout effort for the first 48 minutes or 44 the first 48 minutes and for a lot of overtime as well. This was just like a game where sometimes you're going to come up against a team with championship pedigree that knows how to close out these games and you're going to lose them. And that's just part of the journey of being a young team in the NBA. It's really hard to win. And when a team is kind of locking in and you have the best player in the world absolutely going ham, there's only so much you can do to stop it. The Raptors didn't do themselves a ton of favors down the stretch, though I don't think, kind of going back and looking at the tape, I don't think they sort of shot themselves in the foot as much as it maybe seems like they did as they, gave away a 9-point lead with, I think, 4.5, 5 minutes left, something like that. I think a lot of it was just like, wow, all right, Jokic, incredible shot making, incredible work. What are you going to do? Wow, the Murray-Jokic two-man game leading to a beautiful Jamal Murray finish to send it to OT. What are you going to do? There was a lot of what are you going to do down the stretch watching this one, I thought, on the second viewing. Let's hear from Darko Rajakovic, who talked after the game about why he doesn't believe in moral victories and why this is the type of game that's going to harden the Raptors as they move on, and try to become a team that can win these types of games.
Yeah, I told guys that I don't believe in moral victories. I believe in winning, and I thought we competed for the big part of the game, for the most of the part of the game. We competed the right way, and we gave it all we had tonight. A couple of mistakes here and there, a couple of missed shots, and then free throws, some timely rebounding that they had, and they decided the opponent. I think it's going to be, through games like this, we're going to grow. Through games like this, we're going to get better. What I told guys is like that our effort and energy that cannot waver. Like we got to be this type of team that we're disruptive and then making it hard on our opponents and then playing to our identity offensively.
Yep, I think pretty much exactly what you want to hear from Darko. A far cry from, the days of pizza parties for winning 3 games in a row. No moral victories anymore. I kind of like that. And yeah, I think, with what went wrong last night, again, I think a lot of it was the Nuggets kind of finding another gear, as really good teams tend to do. But I also think, yeah, that there was just like young team things that you hope you kind of iron out and don't confront the next time you're playing a close game like this against a good team with, again, a superstar who's absolutely torching you despite your very best efforts. I did think they kind of ran out of ideas for how to stop Jokic down the stretch, which is going to happen. Like, you throw him the same look enough times, he's going to figure it out. And I thought, there was, I guess, it wasn't like an incredible shooting night or anything like that from the Nuggets. They only got 23s up. They did shoot 9 of 20. So, they were pretty efficient on the few looks they got. And I think that's partly because they were trying not to send doubles at Jokic as much as they could, because he's going to carve you up as a passer. We know the Jokic deal by now. There is no right way to stop him. He's either going to score on you when you go single coverage, or he's going to pick you apart with ridiculous passing if you send doubles. And if his guys are knocking down threes, it's all over. It's why the Nuggets have been rough the first couple of games, is those guys have not been knocking down threes. They did on the very minimal volume they had in this game. Jokic hit 3 threes as well, because he's just kind of, maybe fixing their 3-point issues on his own because he's that good. Either way, I think, there were some moments in this game. There was one in particular, late on 20 seconds left or so. The Raptors have Davion Mitchell and Jakob Poeltl kind of defending Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic on an inbound. And from there, you have a really, really easily conceded switch out of that situation. And I didn't love that. This was when it's 113, 110. You obviously don't want to give up a 3 here. And so that's why they switched, right? Instead of Mitchell fighting through the screen and losing track of Murray, and Murray firing a 3 on the inbound on the catch, you get Poeltl to go and defer him away from taking that 3. Problem was, you have Davion Mitchell switched on to Nikola Jokic. That's bad. Also, pretty deep position as well. This was not, 20 feet from the basket. This was like 12, 15 feet from the basket at most. and you have Davion Mitchell, who's just not going to be able to handle a Nikola Jokic back down. I thought the help was really slow to come. Like, yeah, I get it. You don't want to go and concede a 3 in that situation. But at the same time, like, it was just like, it was such an obvious miscue of how you defend that possession, I thought. Again, I'm dumb. The coaching staff is smarter. The players are smarter. But to end up with that possession, having Davion Mitchell on Nikola Jokic, I bet they might try to change that or send help a little more quickly. There wasn't a great help at the rim. Ochai Agbaji was kind of there, but he was too late. And based on how the Nuggets have been shooting so far this season, I might have preferred that you kind of just dare a guy to hit a 3 over Jokic just kind of walking in and scoring and making it a 113-112 game. Now, if Davion Mitchell hits a free throw at the end of the game, then things are different and they probably win the game anyway. And that's the young team stuff, right? They shoot 17 of 21 from the line in this game. Really good stuff. Jakob Poeltl can't miss a free throw to save his life. Jonathan Bobo's like 12 of 13 to start the year. They're hitting their free throws. It's great. They shot 81% in this game. You'll take that all day. But 3 of their misses were from Scottie, Ochai Agbaji, and Davion Mitchell down the stretch. Young team stuff indeed. Again, some offensive boards that kind of got away from them down the stretch. Aaron Gordon picked up a couple on Jamal Murray misses that, again, kind of right place, right time in a couple situations, maybe some missed box outs here and there. And overall, look, I don't think you can get too upset with the way the Raptors ended up losing this game. Yeah, there were some turnovers from Scottie Barnes as well. He had one that went off his foot, pretty unforced, and then another time later down the floor, just like a really careless transition turnover to Christian Brown when he was trying to make a quick pass to the corner, a pass that Scottie Barnes has made like 1,000 times in his career. Brown picks it. Of course, Scottie goes the other way, and I don't know, this was on a previous turnover earlier in the game where Scottie goes and blocks Brown into oblivion. But on both of those turnovers, the Raptors didn't concede the other way back down. It was really the big crime there was wasting opportunities to score more points and give you more cushion against the Nuggets offense. They missed those chances. You deal with it. You live with it. This is also Scottie Barnes learning how to be a number one, right? I feel like we're all sort of looking at Scottie as, wow, he's got to figure this thing out. He's the number one guy on the team. Yeah. He's been the number one guy on the team for like 14 games worth of real basketball. There was those like 10 games in February where they had their team together. Jokic was there. They looked pretty solid. They were a 500-ish team, and Scottie made some pretty nice strides, had some learning moments in there as well. That OKC game stands out. But then he was out for the last 20 games, and he's just getting back now, and they're 4 games into this year with Scottie playing in a very weird team context with a lot of the important guys not available. And yet still, he's looked pretty good, but there are going to be lumps along the way, right? He's 23 years old. And I know you look at Paolo Banchero at 21, totally eviscerating the Pacers last night. And you're like, why can't he be like that guy right now? Guys take it at different paces. And Scottie Barnes is, again, exactly 14 games into being the lead guy for the Toronto Raptors in earnest. And I think there needs to be a little bit more buffer for him to iron out the kinks, right? He'll learn. This is what this is all about. This is what this season is these types of games where young and experienced stuff causes you to lose and you learn from it. That's just how it goes. They'll defend that Jokic possession where they got the switch on Mitchell super easily, probably differently next time. They'll do a lot of things differently because that's what you got to do. As Darko said, it's through games like this that the Raptors are going to grow. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to wrap it up with the good, the bad, and the from the Toronto Raptors' narrow, dramatic loss to the Denver Nuggets last night in a game that made me feel feelings. We will get to that coming up in just 1 second. Wrapping things up here on your Tuesday edition of Locked On Raptors with the good, the bad, and the the way we round out every game recap episode of the pod here with a thing I liked, thing I didn't like, and a thing that's got me a wee bit intrigued from the latest in Toronto Raptors basketball. The good, I got to go back to Jakob Poeltl. It's weird to say the good is Jakob Poeltl's defense on a guy who scored 40 points on 18 of 27 shooting, but I thought Jakob Poeltl was pretty heroic in this game, considering the challenge that Nikola Jokic poses to anybody. And a lot of it was really difficult shot making on very nobly contested looks. It's just Nikola Jokic is a wizard, and sometimes the wizard powers win over standard mortal defense. And that's just, you got to live with it, right? I thought Poeltl, again, his work on the glass in this game, 19 rebounds, pretty awesome stuff for him. I think it was a career high for him overall. just like cleaning things up, not allowing those second possessions. The Nuggets overall in this game end up with 15 offensive rebounds, but I feel like most of those came like way down the stretch. That's that. I'm shocked by that number, actually. Now looking it up, I figured it was way lower. Either way, I thought the Raptors in this game did a good job on the glass, and Yak was the biggest reason. He also had 8 offensive rebounds of his own. Pretty impressive stuff. He ties his things together, right? His screening is super valuable. You get to see it in full display with RJ Barrett back, launching him into space to go and finish at the rim. Really good game from Jakob Poeltl. I also just want to say, like a sort of subplot to the good. Nikola Jokic is good. I know that there's this sort of urge anytime like a championship level team starts to struggle. There's a real quick trigger urge to like bury them and say they're dead and they're screwed. I hope that in the urge to bury the Nuggets, as they maybe aren't the same team they used to be, we don't lose sight of just how ridiculously good Nikola Jokic is. Like, it's a treat to watch that guy hoop, and it's like he's unbelievable. And I hope that the sort of discourse doesn't catch Jokic up in what should be criticism of like the front office and the cheap ass owners and the really bad CBA that has caused the slow decay of that championship Nuggets team. Jokic is not the problem, never will be. He's unbelievable. And I think, it's just like an absolute joy and treat and honor to watch that guy work in person. Pretty cool stuff. Let's get to the bad. It's Scottie Barnes getting hurt. It stinks. Really, really hope that he's all right. First of all, we don't need to get mad at Nikola Jokic for this. Like, stuff happens, man. Like, guys are going for rebounds. It's physical. Basketball is a sport of elbows, and sometimes those elbows hit unfortunate places. There was nothing malicious about what Jokic did. And like, we don't need to go and get all pissy and moany about it and say, we don't like Jokic anymore because he hurt our guy. Look, guys hurt guys. It's fine. Like, it sucks. It's just an unfortunate thing. It doesn't have to be blame. It could just be a thing that sucks without blaming somebody. It's not Russell Westbrook's ridiculous flagrant foul on Scottie Barnes, which, hey, if you want to get mad about, and boy, oh boy, did the fans in the crowd last night get mad about it, rightfully so, that's perfectly fine to me. But yeah, really unfortunate that Scottie goes down. It's a huge bummer, obviously, if Scottie misses any time. They really cannot afford it, especially if Emmanuel Quickly isn't quite ready to return. Like, if Quickly can come back on Wednesday and Scottie misses that game and who knows how long after, like, Quickly at least gives them a little bit of creation, right? And I do think that there was just such a clear, dire need for Emmanuel Quickly in that game last night, especially after Scottie goes out. The offense got really gummy, right? And they got some success. They found some possessions that worked, but for the most part, it was kind of a slog getting into their stuff. And I think Quickly, more than Davion Mitchell, just stands a chance of kind of getting them into the flow of their offense and creating some good stuff out of his driving, out of his three-point shooting, all of that. Also, just like, they need his three-point accuracy, something fierce. They shot 28% from three in this game. A little bit of Emmanuel Quickly juice probably puts them over the top in this game. So again, a reason to not feel super bad. Hopefully he can come back and tidy things up and sort of bring some more organization to the team and all of that. But yeah, not having Scottie Quickly returning might help you weather it a little bit, but he is still the most dominant offensive creative force they have. And if you don't have Scottie, you're going to be in tough. Now, the numbers suggest that's actually the opposite of that. So far this year, the Raptors are like 23 points per 100 on offense worse with Scottie on the floor than when he's off. I think that is very much like tiny sample related and team context related more than anything else. When you watch this team, when you watch that team last night try to play offense without Scottie Barnes, it is a slog. It's really difficult. And so, hopefully it's not too long an absence. Getting elbowed in the eye feels not pleasant. Hopefully there's nothing, too serious or damaging. We might have gotten something while I'm recording the show today, but hopefully Scottie's not out too long. Maybe he's able to wear a mask or something if there's any sort of issue with the orbital bone. Orbital bones are messy though, man. Those will take you out. And so, yeah, hopefully it's nothing too serious like that. Crappy situation for a team that seems like it's just about to get kind of its main horses back. We'll see about the other guys who are hurt beyond Quickly, but if they can get Quickly back soon and Scottie's available, we saw last night, like, there's a recipe for this team to be pretty serious and competitive. Without Scottie, it gets a whole lot more difficult, though. Maybe they can get by a little bit with just Quickly, Poeltl, Barrett, and the rookie crew being total maniacs. Let's wrap it up here with the and the is that we have a candidate for Sean's favorite lineup, which is, of course, the highest honor any five-man combination of basketball players can hope to achieve. Count me all the way in on the Jamal Shed, RJ Barrett, Jamison Battle, Scottie Barnes, Jonathan Mobo lineup we saw to start the second and fourth quarters last night. You got two core quote-unquote vets with the three rookies. The defensive disruptiveness of that crew, with Jamal Shed at the point of attack being his annoying self, busting things up, Jonathan Mobo having arms for days, and Scottie Barnes also having arms for days. Really, really fun crew to watch play basketball. They were not great on offense. I think they scored 75 points per 100 possessions. If you're going to prorate it out, not great, but they also gave up 75 points per 100 possessions. They were dead even in their minutes. And that 8-3 run at the start of the second quarter where it was just super fun, weirdo basketball where you have Scottie and RJ and Shed just kind of running with all reckless abandon. You got Mobo messing things up, Battle out there for space. I like that lineup a lot. I want to see more of it. That feels like a bench lineup with Scottie Barnes that can work. And it's a bench lineup where it's not just Scottie plus four bench guys. Sprinkle in extra starters, baby. It's possible. You can do it. And I think that lineup has some juice. You know, they got a little gummy on offense in the fourth quarter. Still a couple really nice defensive flourishes. You had the possession that Scottie got the flagrant foul committed on him by Russell Westbrook. It was him and Mobo totally blowing up a pick and roll, and Scottie Barnes running the other way with the steal. Those two guys working in tandem. The power of friendship, the power of arms and length and disruptiveness. Pretty fun stuff on display. I'm all in on the Shed, RJ, Battle, Scottie, Mobo lineup. More of that, please. And it also kind of opens up when Quickly's back. If you're going to run that as one of your bench units, you can run Quickly, Grady Dick, Jakob Poeltl as the basis for another, reserve unit. That seems pretty fun. Quickly, Poeltl, pick and roll with Grady Dick spacing. You throw in whomever else, whether it's Chris Boucher, whether it's Davion Mitchell. Actually, really like Davion Mitchell in that lineup now that I'm thinking about it. That's fun. I think there's a whole lot of ways you can kind of get creative with the very weird collection of guys that are on this team and kind of mixing and matching them together. Pretty good start with that Shed, RJ, Battle, Scottie, Mobo lineup. Again, early contender for Sean's favorite lineup, and that will maybe a moving target throughout the season. But for now, that's the one for me. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. As always, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for subscribing to the newsletter. It's free. If you haven't done it yet, do it, please. Talked about the noble decision to let RJ Barrett play that thing out last night and not call a timeout like Brad Stevens ass coach from Darko Rajakovic. If you want to go and check that out, that'll be the Tuesday newsletter post. Got some stuff from what we learned about the weekend on Monday as well. It's a great thing. I'm really enjoying writing over there and would love to see you support it and get my words on top of my spoken words that you get every day from the podcast. Of course, you can follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Much appreciated. Join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday as Katie Heindel is back from vacation. So Katie's going to be back on the show. Of course, we got Hornets talk coming up on Thursday and Toxic Positivity Friday. It's not been canceled after one episode. It'll be back on Friday as well as we get toxically positive, but all good in Toronto Raptors basketball from the week. Looking ahead to a really, really fun weekend of Lakers and Kings back-to-backs and Vince Carter retirements and all of that. Super energized to start the season. Hopefully you are too. Thanks so much for being along. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. Ooh, and he's back. Let's go.